Hello everyone, I hope everybody is well and in good health. Today, on behalf of myself and Assistant Professor Dr. Hussain Anatha, I will be presenting our paper, Socioeconomic and Geopolitical Transitions in the Mediterranean Basin and its Impact on Urban Forms of Port Cities. According to the World Bank report in 1996, urbanization level in the 20th century, particularly in the Middle East, was about 39%. Whilst in the 21st century, the whole world population is about 88%, and 90% of this percentage is in developing countries. Therefore, it is expected that around 1.5 billion people will be living in urban areas in the year 2024. The forces of this started, in fact, with the advent of the Industrial Revolution. All the wars, colonization, the discovery of oil, and the different technologies and communication tools which raised the concerns regarding internal and external relationships between cities. As a result, urban systems and population increased rapidly, which led cities to initiate new lands at different locations. And as a result, over half of the world's population are now city dwellers. The consequences were evident on the social and economic life, affecting housing sector, power and energy consumption, commercial services, landscapes, infrastructure, transportation, employments, and many more. Therefore, cities started to expand their tissues in order to cope with the increasing demands of their inhabitants. The adaptive strategies in the 19th century were in the form of two major economic developments. The first is ports, which started at the eastern coast of the Mediterranean, and the second is canals, which connected the Mediterranean Sea to hinterlands through trading activities, such as the Suez Canal and Corinth Canal in Greece. The Mediterranean has witnessed rapid growth of population between the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, from 281 million to 470 million inhabitants. The location of the Mediterranean Sea has always been a transitional hub of economic and culture, which played a prime role in increasing the rates of population and urbanization in the urban Mediterranean region. The socioeconomic and geopolitical experiences are constantly transforming the physical spatial structures of cities, especially in the 21st century, whereas the image of the city is being seen within a wider lens, a perspective that consists of internal local transitions of cities and external influences and forces which shape the structure of these cities. Therefore, the study tackles these aspects through investigating the notion of four cities in the Mediterranean basin: Beirut, Famagusta, and Limassol in Cyprus, and Corinth city in Greece. The aim is to highlight the urban challenges related to global socioeconomic and geopolitical statuses. Many cities and towns are experiencing an increasing number of complex problems regarding internal relationships and external connections. These problems are arising from wars, colonization, and urbanization. Thus, we are witnessing rapid transitions in structural realism of cities. The transition to the urban industrial world in the 18th and 19th centuries produced one of the greatest transformations in human history. The transition is remarkable through an effective separation between work, study, and residence. Natural growth in both urban and rural areas has begun to lose its prestige due to the growing desire to cope with the pace of population and urban demands, as well as the desire to follow up with the industrial production around the whole world. This has resulted in unequal local population distribution between urban and rural areas. Whereas the global upgrowing industrial trends in the last decades reshaped the urban distribution among cities. In the 19th century, ports construction was undertaken in great cities in the hope to cope with the industrial boom, rather than small cities which still needed to moderate their infrastructure and facilities. Consequently, this reoriented economic activities towards the coast and hence the external world. Therefore, the construction of ports around the Mediterranean fostered the transformation of the physical structures of port cities. and led to raise new social and economic trends within it. Many cities centered on the Mediterranean Sea had varying influencing roles in the form of the general economy of the entire region through its strategic location that dominated global trading routes in the past and other social and political factors at the present time. These cities took advantage of their position to develop future strategies by partially or completely transforming their infrastructure, which leads to changing the city's shape and its main function to provide equal economic and social opportunities for its residents. The strategic location of the city of Limassol, facing African, Asian, and European Mediterranean coastlines, played a major role in the emergence of port city notion in relation to the external world. This has directly reflected on the formation of the city, spatially and functionally. Therefore, due to the regional central focus it played over time, Limassol was a factor for both the thriving and further development of the new port. The previous changes that occurred in the port of Limassol were one of the factors that affect changing the shape and functions of the coast, hence the city. Through the newly developed corridors and ports, the city today extends along the coast from east to west further than 15 kilometers. Nonetheless, following the industrial and commercial activities along the coast, the distribution of land use has a major influence on the shape of the city. Poor and massive coastal developments have caused problems such as coastal erosions due to the slow governmental measures to provide solutions. Therefore, citizens today tend to resort to illegal solutions, such as vertical wave barriers created to try to improve and protect the beaches. The physical network of Limassol gives a comprehensive overview on the morphological transitions in the city. It is evident that there are multiple urban fabrics present in the city, as shown in the image in front of us, from leapfrog to cluster to single-use developments to some areas very car dependent and low density areas isolated and ribbon developments and so on. On the other side of the Mediterranean, the Corinth location on the coastline of the Gulf of Corinth and its port being close to the Corinth Canal entrance might have promised economic success to the city. However, once the canal was constructed, it was not economically successful as expected earlier. It was difficult to navigate through the canal due to its narrowness and the frequent high winds and strong currents. Therefore, this determines two important factors in the development of cities in the post-industrial era: building ports for economic and political purposes, and exploiting of the location. However, visions differ, and misuse of geographical features may lead to urban disasters, as witnessed in the city of Corinth. The dislocation between coastal cities and hinterlands does not only have an economic or social and geographical dimensions, it has also increased physical independence from one city to another. In the last decades, cities became more connected socially and hence physically due to migration and multiple social factors. The morphologies for the origins of urbanism is not limited to the local internal distribution of population within cities. Rather, it also includes several multidimensional aspects such as the military actions, the political forces, and sociological human responses with religious reasons, which led to more infrastructure needs through a heavy bureaucracy. The city of Famagusta in the southern east coast of Cyprus is one of the most prominent examples in the Mediterranean Sea, which reflects a major physical transition due to the external socio-political factors. The city developed from ancient times near the coast, where it was known mainly for fishing as well as being an important trading hub. The growth of the city was affected by the beginning of the political movement in the region. as the growth of the city was shaken by the establishment of military areas along the coast. In addition, the geographical factors also played an important role, such as mountains and forests. These changes occurred in the city's early forms, and as a result, it has shifted from an economically self-contained village to a more complex structure of social and political dynamics. Therefore, a dramatic transition in Famagusta's urban realm occurred due to the geopolitical role responding to the socio-economic needs of the Mediterranean region. The city, which was originally founded on a small fishing town around 300 BC and later became an important commercial coast, suffered from the accident that marks the beginning of the spatial separation between Greek and Turkish Cypriots. Since then, Famagusta has lost its significance as a coastal city, and the importance of the city has shifted to be a response to migration beginning in 1986 when the University of Eastern Mediterranean was founded, which led to a massive, unplanned urban growth. Likewise, Beirut city on the opposite bank of the Mediterranean suffered from similar socio-political concerns. In the 1971, a survey conducted indicated that a total of about 12,500 individuals and around 2,500 households were located in the area. However, only 29.4% of these were Lebanese. Most of them were from the south of the country. The majority of the residents were Syrian and Kurdish, forming each a little over 30% of the total population. All of Lebanese and non-Lebanese migrants lived in settlements on the outskirts of Beirut. In the post-war era, Beirut began instantly to recover. All demolitions, repairs, rebuildings were launched. This was clearly the result largely of individual initiatives in those early years on a case-by-case basis. The government at that time was establishing the Solidary Company, and it began to implement some of the major components of the transformation of Beirut's center. Completion of the ring road, laying the roadways and its underlying infrastructure, renovating and recreating much of built fabric in the historical center within it, the brutal deconstruction and transformations of the city, particularly in places that had high symbolic and economic value like the city center, made physical reconstruction an imperative, especially for the city center, which is the heart of Beirut. After the several wars, including the Civil War, the reconstruction of the city center was about to start. The first proposal was to restore the image of the Mediterranean city. It included the restoration of the souks, the opening of the city to the harbor, and the design of a promenade along the sea. But the second side of the project was the modernization of the city. It foresaw new public buildings symbolizing the unity of the state. The proposal also included new arteries through the ancient urban fabric, as well as the realization of a modern business center on an old dockside. Conceived as a tool for the recovery, the CDB was expected to provide a concrete way out of the social crisis, and the reconstruction of the downtown area was expected to recreate the conditions of the economic development of the pre-war time. Modernizing a historic core that was increasingly seen as decrepit and in need for transformation. Beirut was strongly affected after the war, and the way the reconstructions were contrived had negative side on the long term. It also clearly showed how regeneration plan did not tackle the social segregation, as there are some clear places still segregated for Muslims Shia only, and Muslim Sunni only, and Christians only. It can be concluded that the economic situation of the coastal cities is weaker than it used to be before the 20th century. Thus, the urban expansion is being hindered. Although the overall population of the region is rapidly increasing, Yet the declination of the population in the past decades on some cities, such as the region of Corinth, is declining rapidly. This means that the population is concentrated in limited areas, which ring the bell for upcoming challenges in dealing with the infrastructure and meeting the demands of, for food, water, energy consumption, and environmental concerns as well. This and so many other factors have direct impact on the physical growth of cities, as well as the overall economic and political status of the region as a whole. The regional effect in terms of the economic importance of the ports and canals and the population declination directly affected coastal lines by emerging urban fabrics that are neither coherent with the original grid nor having any connection to hinterlands from one side and the sufficient role in the sea trading activities from the other side, leaving coastlines at a critical point which raises still many critical questions. Coastlines as a system basis of city can find compelling rational as well as a cohesive meaning of recovering its major role in embracing complex external and internal relations, which result in the formation of a strong and coherent urban systems to cope with the constant changes of the whole region. While the complexity in the emerging trends in the Mediterranean region is being every day constantly changing, the old urban development elements such as coastlines embrace the solution for the transformation in the post-industrial era through reviving its role as a major hub for social, economic, and geopolitical cores. Therefore, to conclude, the study suggests that in order to cope with the constant changing dilemmas and the urban situations of the whole Mediterranean region, the coastal line should get back and revive its role as a major hub for cities' growth and development, and therefore all socio-economic and geopolitical centers should be recentered again to the coastline in order to cope with these problems and challenges of the 21st century. Thank you for your time. I hope that was helpful and short and sufficient. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to contact us.